What's going on? How are you doing? Brian here. I hope you're doing well wherever you're at, listening to this, watching this. I'm really excited about this topic that I want to talk about today because I think there's a lack of complete information out there on what it takes, what it actually takes to scale an e-commerce brand from that 5-figure a month mark to 6 figures a month to 7 figures a month. And it's not to say what I'm going to talk about today and in the next few videos isn't applicable to you if you're just starting out. I just think that for the most part, you can kind of ham and egg it and miss some of the pieces to get to that kind of 4 figures, 5 figures a month. And then you'll hit a ceiling if you don't have both sides of this equation, because I think there's really good information out there on the marketing piece. So when I say marketing, I mean, how to run a Facebook ad and what to say in your copy and what the creative should look like. And should you use image or video, long form, short form, and when they click, what headline, when they click, the images, the videos, the copy on the page, what the page layout should be. I think there's a lot of good info out there, and it's super important. The issue is it's only one side of a two-sided coin, particularly when it comes to your marketing efforts. And on one side, you have the marketing. On the other side, you have the metrics. So think of this two-sided coin, right? One side's marketing, one side's metrics, or your numbers. And it's numbers as they apply to your marketing efforts. And I think that if you solely rely on the marketing, you're falling into a little bit of a trap. We like to say great marketing can't beat bad math. So if you don't have the economics dialed in, you don't have your marketing numbers dialed in, or at least aware of them, so you know what your targets are. Again, you can focus on just the marketing for a while, but what'll happen is you'll sort of hit this plateau, and it'll be very hard to break through. And you'll kind of wonder, you'll spin your wheels, and you'll wonder like, why am I not able to scale? And it usually comes down to a numbers issue in the business, a lot of times in our experience. So what I want to do today and in the next few videos, just kind of talk about what those numbers are, give you some awareness and clarity on what the numbers are, because it's not complicated stuff. I think, in our experience, when we've given e-com brand owners that clarity, they start experiencing exponential growth when they know what numbers to look at, and not just what to keep track of, but what insights to draw from where they are, and then giving them clear targets on where they need to go, and then tactical, action items on like how to get there. That's when they start to break through and have that, exponential growth. So that's what I'm doing. I just want to talk about some of that stuff. So if that interests you, then I think you'll like what I'll be talking about today in the next few videos. So let's dive right in. I wanted to start with this topic because I think that if you're listening to this and you're an e-commerce brand owner, you're driving traffic to your store, or your funnel, whatever you're using as the cart. Maybe you're using both, which is probably a good idea. Something we talk about a lot, but that's a different topic for a different video. You're probably running Facebook ads. And one of the things I love about Facebook ads and D2C companies, or e-commerce brands that are selling directly to the consumer, is they work incredibly well. There's a lot of talk right now about, do ads still work with all the changes? And, the changes are always happening, right? But, there's been some big changes, recently. And I think that in some markets, it's being affected more than others. But when it comes to what you do, which is selling low ticket impulse buy items, it works incredibly well because people, it's a great way to put the product in front of people. People want to buy things, especially low price, relatively low priced products that just make them feel good, right? People work hard. They want to treat themselves. And, if we position the product the right way and do all the right marketing things that we have to do, see, that doesn't change. That is very, very important. And maybe in other videos and in the future, I'll talk about some of those marketing ideas to keep in mind, but I really want to focus on the numbers today. If we do our job, interrupt the conversation of the prospect's mind, show them how this, answers a pain or a pleasure, or gets them closer to some end goal that they want, it's such an easy sale in the sense of, there's not a lot of convincing. It's a short time frame between when they see the product and they're ready to buy, because it's a low price product, relatively speaking. It's low priced. It's an impulse buy. And they're just like, yeah, I like it. I want to try it. Boom, click buy. And that's what Facebook ads are really, really good for. So Facebook ads are working incredibly well still in e-commerce. So if you're a brand owner and you hear a lot of stuff, don't worry, they're still working, and keep going with them. Not saying don't explore other platforms. We're testing them all the time, but definitely, keep running your ads. Now, I would say don't run another ad until you are clear on this number that I'm going to talk about today, because this is what's going to be your sort of North Star. Because I would argue that what we're going to cover today is the most important number in your Facebook marketing, in your campaigns. Now, there are a lot of other numbers that really matter. When we look at how you analyze and optimize a campaign, you've got click-through rates and CPCs and CPMs and add to cart, percentage and value, and initiate checkout percentage and value, and purchase value. And like, we have all these other numbers to diagnose, where's the funnel broken, and to figure out, can we take something that's on the brink of winning and make it a winner by tweaking these numbers, or take something that's working well and actually crank it up, or look at something and realize, listen, there's nothing we can do because the numbers just don't line up. It's a mismatch between the message and the market. It's not going to work. So there's all these other numbers that are really important in the analysis. But when it comes down to it, we're looking at one number that really is going to dictate sort of success or failure with that ad or that campaign. And that's going to be your return on your ad spend, right? And you're probably thinking like, okay, great. Thanks for the insight, Brian. I didn't know that ROAS was important. Return on ad spend. Kidding. I knew that was very important. Well, that's not the number that I want to talk to you about today. It's a variation of that number, and ROAS is really important. But what I get a question all the time. People ask, hey, is 2 ROAS a good number? It's like, I don't know. I have no idea. They're like, what do you mean? You're supposed to know this. Like, well, I don't know anything about your business. I don't know anything about your lifetime value. And I, most importantly, don't know anything about your profit margin. Is 3 a good ROAS? Well, I heard 3 is really good. Maybe. What's your profit margin? Is 1.5 good? Is 1.2? So while ROAS is important, knowing what it means to you is really important. So that's what I want to talk about. So we use a number internally with our clients, with all our ads, and it's our break-even ROAS, our B ROAS. And this number is super important because this is your par for the course. So in a golf analogy, this is par for the course. Anything, if your ROAS is at this number, then that means you are breaking even. You are making sales and you're acquiring customers for free. Now that sounds horrible, right? Because you're basically, what I'm saying is you're spending money, making sales, and at the end of the day, when you subtract out the ad spend, plus all of your cost of goods, plus all of your expenses to fulfill those units, you're making $0. That sounds like, well, that was stupid. I should have not even wasted my time, because I ended up net 0 at the same place where I started. But that's not true. I mean, if you've been a brand owner for a minute, you already know, well, but wait, we added buyers into our pipeline. We added non-buyers through other methods that we have, right? That we're able to capture leads while those purchases are happening. So the leads are sort of a byproduct of those sales. And while we broke even, we now have a new bucket full of, or our bucket is full of new buyers and non-buyers that on the next time they convert, right, it's all profit margin. So while it looks like, and it doesn't, that also doesn't account for more impressions, more brand awareness, and just sort of more omnipresence in that market by them seeing your brand, right? They just see it on your phone. They're seeing you retargeting them. So, so when we look at that, yeah, if we broke even, if we hit that number, that par number, you're actually in a really good spot. And if you have a great system on the back end, so you're able to now reconvert these buyers and non-buyers into repeat purchases, right? Then it's pure profit afterwards. But we want to do better. We want to be above that break-even mark. Anything above that break-even mark, and I'll give you some solid examples here in a second, but anything above that break-even mark, now you're actually getting paid to acquire customers. And we like to call that an ATM. I mean, you're putting $1 in, taking 3 out, and you're profiting a full $1 of cash to, acquire customers and non-buyers that you're then going to convert again. That's a beautiful place to be. And if you get there, it's time to really pour fuel on that fire. And if you're below that number, then that means you're taking a net loss to acquire those customers. And that's not always a bad thing. We set a bottom threshold on what we're willing to, how far we're willing to go, right? And you'll want to do that as well. And you got to analyze your numbers and see. But the point is, you may have a really good back end process in place, and then you can, you're comfortable borrowing 3, 7, 10 days into the future in order to pay for today's customer. We don't like to do that. We believe in direct response ads. We're not trying to brand ourselves. We're not trying to, we're not, you probably like us, most of our clients, you're not private equity funded where you just have a pile of cash where you can borrow 3, 6, 12, 18 months into the future to acquire customers today. And you have plenty of cash to spend to do that, right? We need a quick return. We need the cash back so we can reinvest in the business. So we really want to be at that break-even number or higher, which means we're making money acquisition. We don't want to go lower. There's a few cases we will get below that, but that's a whole different topic and part of the strategy. But what I want to focus on today is make you aware of that while there's a lot of numbers in your ads that matter, that ROAS number is really important, but not just the ROAS number, but how it relates to the most important number in your business when you're running ads, which is your break-even ROAS. Okay. So the next question is, well, great. Now I know that's important. How do I get a hold of this number? So it's actually a really simple calculation. So what you first have to do is you got to figure out what your profit margin is. And if you don't know what your profit margin is, or if you ever watch Shark Tank, you probably have. You're an entrepreneur. You've watched Shark Tank. We've all watched Shark Tank. After they do their pitch, it's really interesting, actually. I just thought of this. After they do their marketing, right? And that's why you need to get a deal with us. Right? And they have their little song and dance and then kids come out from the back. It's just always this whole thing. After they do that, everyone laughs, and usually it's Kevin, right? Okay, talk to me. What are the numbers? First thing they want to know. It's like, okay, great. You made us laugh. Good marketing. That's really good. Okay, let's get down to business because they understand that's how you're going to scale the business. That's where it's going to be made or broken. And they also understand that an owner who doesn't have the answers to this, how many times they're like, well, yeah, you clearly don't know what's going on. You don't even know what you don't know. I'm out, right? So they'll ask, what's your cost of acquisition? What's your profit margin? What they want to know all these things. What's the cost of goods? How much is packaging? They want to know all these things because then they're thinking, how can we reduce expenses, increase profitability? And is there room for them to invest? And how can they scale and all this, right? My whole point is they're experienced entrepreneurs. So they want to know the numbers and specifically those marketing numbers. So if I ask you, or if anyone asks you, what's your profit margin? And you're like, about, no abouts. Okay. Before you can calculate this BROAS and start implementing this in your campaigns, you need to sit down and actually take an account of what your expenses are. Now, what I would caution you against is don't go down this rabbit hole. Sometimes this can lead you down this crazy rabbit hole of, this expense and that expense. Think of your expenses in terms of calculating your profit margin as what are the costs associated with fulfilling the next unit of product, right? So you've sold this thing, right? And now you want to figure out not only the cost of goods, like how much it costs to get this landed, right? Because there's shipping costs associated with getting this product. Now we have to package it. We have inserts. We have, the packaging in there. We have to tape it up, get the box ready. There might be some labor and you want to divide out kind of, if you're the one doing it, well, great. You get free, you got free labor, right? If someone else is doing it, then figure out, okay, kind of divide it out, get a ballpark of what it costs to package per unit. Now that's a variable cost, right? Because if you have more packages and your one worker, let's say in a simple example, they can fill, 100 packages a day and you have 50 coming in. Well, your per unit cost for labor is variable because if they have 50 more units that they can output, well, then your cost per unit is going to go down as they get maxed out. So think about that. Now, that's about as far as I would go. Just some of the expenses. And if you hand build the product, we've worked with a few companies that they still, they hand make it in the U.S. So they have the cost of glue and the material and backing and all this other stuff. So maybe you have to do a per unit calculation that way. The point is, calculate the expense needed to cover that next unit of product, okay, to fulfill. And shipping is a tricky one. And not tricky, but you just want to be mindful of this because if you charge shipping, well, are you taking a loss and you're just trying to subsidize some of that cost? because you have to cover shipping. So let's say you have, you charge $350 shipping flat rate, and it costs you $5 to ship. Well, then you have a net loss of $1.50. So that would be an expense. But if you flip it around and you charge $5 for shipping, but your cost is $350, you actually have a net gain on shipping of $1.50. So that's actually going to be a negative expense. We're actually going to make money on it. And if you do free shipping, then you're eating the whole cost of shipping, right? So just think about that, put that together. And then once you figure out your profit margin, which is just what you uh, uh, charge for it minus expenses, that's your profit. Divide your profit by what you charge for it, that's your profit margin. You simply take 1 divided by that number, and that'll give you that break-even ROAS. And then now you've got that par for the course. And now that becomes the number that you measure the performance of your campaigns against. Okay. So it's a super, super important number. It's something we use. It's one of the first things we teach all of our, any students, anytime we're talking about ads or with our clients, when we're working with them, this is the number one thing. First thing we do. I mean, first thing you do is fill out, we want to know all the expenses. We figure this out because simply knowing that ROAS is important, all right, you have a ROAS of 2. Well, if your profit margin is 65%, then a ROAS of 2 is actually crushing it. Okay. And do the math and you'll see what I mean. But if you have a profit margin of 33%, a ROAS of 2, we're probably going to shut that thing off unless in some of these secondary numbers, when we're analyzing the campaign, we see, oh, wow, there's this. We can tweak this because this number is really good. We could probably turn this into a break-even campaign. But again, that's kind of a different topic. So the only reason I'm saying that is so that you know that, listen, all those other numbers are important, but they're secondary to that ROAS. And then as it relates, though, to that most important number for your business, for your brand, that break even. Once you have that, now there's going to be a shift in your thinking, right? And how you optimize campaigns, how you prioritize things. And then you're going to be able to now scale, and you're going to scale confidently because you know the numbers make sense. So hopefully that helps. If it does, then that's great, but I want you to then apply it, right? And actually start using it. Would love to hear how well it works for you. And if this is the kind of thing that you're into and you're looking to take your business from, sort of where you're at, where you've started to have some success, but you are really ready to start getting after it and crushing it and hitting those 6-7, figure a month marks, then this is going to be critical because if you get it wrong on a small spend, it's not that big of a deal. When the spend starts to increase, because it's a great way to drive traffic, right? That's how we're going to hit those higher numbers. We have to push that traffic. Small variations can actually, with big budgets, can be significant numbers. So you got to really be on top of these numbers. So hopefully that helps you. Again, if you like this stuff, then be on the lookout because I got a few more coming at you. Can be kind of some metric stuff. Then we'll shift over to the marketing. I'll talk about that as well because it is really a two-sided coin. But again, I think there's a lack of complete information. I think there's a lot of good marketing stuff out there. I think there's a lot of bad marketing stuff out there, which we'll try to correct in some of the future stuff we talk about. But at the very least, if you can start having a balanced approach to how you look at your business, I think you're going to see a ton more success. At least that's been our experience with the brands we've worked with. That's when they really start to see that exponential growth. So go apply it and have a great rest of your day, and we will see you soon. All right. Bye.